Joining me now, Ralph Godbee, former Detroit police chief, spent 25 years on the force. Chief, it's good to see you, especially in person. Are we seeing a change now, and I think also from faith leaders that we're seeing in these big cities, of saying, as well-intentioned perhaps as progressive policies might be, that the people who are feeling good about themselves endorsing these progressive policies aren't the ones who actually have to live through the effects of them?
That's a great point, but it's ironic that there's a flawed messenger. 50 Cent is one of the biggest misappropriators of the black experience, and he makes a lot of money off of the perceptions, some real, some not, in the black community. But with that being said, if you look at the omnibus crime bill, Joe Biden took a lot of heat for it. But the reality is, and being a police officer during that period of time with the crack epidemic.
This is going back to the 1990s.
Going back to the 1990s. Yeah. Communities and black leaders, black mayors, they were crying out for something to stop the scourge of what the crack epidemic was doing. Now, we get more refined as time goes by, and we want to point the finger at one person. But even, as I said earlier, a clock that's broke is right twice a day. And 50 Cent, even though I think he's a flawed messenger, I do think he has some merit in what he's saying, because it's not a one-size-fits-all and you wipe out bail, but you really have to be much more nuanced in looking at the history of the person that you're assessing bail for.
Right. It's as flawed of a messenger as he might be. He's the one talking right now, and there's a lot of African-American leaders who refuse to talk about this in a meaningful way. They say, we've asked him to be on the show. We're talking about mayors of these big cities. We're talking about prosecutors and the like. But Larry Krasner, a DA in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, we do not believe that arresting people and convicting them for illegal possession of guns is a viable strategy to reduce shootings. And I just come back to this idea that, look, these people are funded by a certain progressive ideology. Yes. And that they're implementing policies that affect people that don't affect them.
And that's absolutely right. If you look at New York, they had a precipitous drop in gun crimes, and they're one of the safest large cities in America. Now, albeit the stop and frisk policy, causation and correlation, we found out it wasn't the stop and frisk policy. But they had a zero tolerance basically on carrying a gun, because to pull the trigger, you actually have to have a gun on you.
Right.
And Plaxico Burress, he was infamous for having a gun on himself, shooting himself accidentally in a club, and was still prosecuted. So if you look at New York as the seminal
this is not New York right now.
Not the New York right now. But even at that, we do a disservice when we look at crime year over year as opposed to looking at trends over 5 to 10 years. And over 5 to 10 years, even 15, 20 years, New York is still one of the safest large cities in the United States of America. But I would opine, and I think there's reasonable evidence to back that up, it was the fact that they were very hard on people carrying guns illegally in the first place.
What do you make right now of this debate of how to solve gun crime in America? We know the vast majority of gun crime is the shooting of young black males by other young black males. The statistics show that. And yet there is a political concentration on mass shootings by people with AR-15s, which is a very, very small number of the people who are killed. And I wonder if there's going to be a moment where there's the same revolt that we had in the 1990s of African-American leaders saying, wait a second, you got to start doing something about kids with guns and felons in possessions of guns, because that's how we're going to keep people alive.
And that's the
Is that coming?
I think it's coming, and that's the danger of being hyper-partisan on both ends of the spectrum.
Fair enough.
There is a middle ground, and the middle ground is the fact that you've got to take a look at not only there's a disproportionate number of black people that are incarcerated, disproportionate number of black people that are stopped by the police, but the victims, you have to look from a victimization standpoint, and there's a disproportionate number of black victims.
Right, so on the other side of all of those, on the other side of those gun crimes is often a black victim.
Yes.
Chief, it's always good to see you. Thanks. Welcome to Washington. You'll be back. Good to see you. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.